When is it the right time to quit the full-time job and go all in on that side hustle?
So, in one sense, I'll preface all of this before I answer that by saying I'm not the best person to speak to this because I can't relate. Like I started my company when I was so young that I never had a full-time job outside of running my company. I had the luxury of starting a company when I was in high school, when I lived at home with my parents, had no bills, and built a very successful company, and I'm still running to that company to this day. So I'm maybe not the best person. But here's my unpopular take on it, which is that I don't think you can start a business while you're working a full-time job. I know that there are some people that have done it, and again, like Elon Musk runs a bunch of companies, there are exceptions to every rule. But I think most people should not. I don't think you can build a company. If you're looking to become an entrepreneur, I don't think the best way to do it is let me start a company at night on the side, and when the revenue from that company surpasses my income from my job, then I'll quit my job and I'll focus on the company. There are certainly, I know people that it's worked for, but I think they're more the exception than the rule.
Well,
I
they are, but I think you actually like the way that I would answer that is exactly what you just said, right? There's two really signals for me that if I was talking to someone and they're like, hey, this is what I've got going on, I'm thinking about quitting my full time job and going all in on my side hustle, is one, what you just said. The income from the side hustle now surpasses the income of the main job.
I just think it's really hard to get there if you're working a main
Well,
job.
no, it is really hard to get there, but that's why it's a side hustle. It's not a side hobby, right? We're going to talk about in a second with the difference between a hobby and a hustle, because a hustle is going to take everything that you have and then 10% more to get off the ground. Let's go back to the question. So
So,
if
so yeah,
if somebody was asking me, like, when should I quit my job? One, is the income from your side hustle greater than your current income? And do you see that you'll have the ability to grow it even more if you go full time in it? The other one is, or it's like the third leg of that stool, if you have at least 6 months of living expenses saved in an account as well, right? So your side hustle is doing more than your current. It has growth potential if you gave it everything that you have, and you've got 6 months runway in your bank account, and you're passionate about it, like it's something you actually want to do. What is it they say? Like 73% of Americans hate their job.
yeah,
So, right, if you've got everything else lined up, you've got to go for it. You've only got one life. The worst thing that could happen is you fail and you got to go out and find another job.
right. That's what I would say. So I mean, if you have a side hustle and you want it to become your full-time hustle, you have to quit your job. So like, that looks like different things for everybody depending on where you're at in life. If you're a young single person with no obligations, like you can afford to take the risk to hold your breath for 6 months and see if you can pull it off regardless of what your current situation is. If you're 40 years old and you've got 4 kids, like maybe you want to have a year of cash, and you said 6 months. Like to me, maybe you want to have a year of cash in the bank and then quit your job and focus on building the. So it looks different for different phases of life, but I think the common thing is you've got to be able to quit your job and focus on your business full time.
This also brings up something that's coming out of Silicon Valley, but that it's spreading a little bit more and more people are talking about it. It's the 996 culture, working from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, 6 days a week. But there is something like when I think back to like my earliest successes in business, although 996 was not anything I'd ever heard of, that's really about how much I worked when I was in DC starting my first company, right? It might have actually been like 6. Well, I don't want to say 6. That sounds terrible, but it would. Like I'd be in the office at 6 a.m. I'd work till 6 p.m. and I was there Monday through Saturday, right? So I was doing 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Um, I agree. I don't know if it's Hormozy, if it's Gary Vee or someone that was saying it recently. Like, if you're in your 20s, you've got to be working like that because it will only make your 30s and 40s and 50s that much better. If you're trying to work as little as possible in your 20s, unless you've got a trust fund or right the stars aligned and you've got a career that AI isn't coming for, right? You That's the time to be all in on it. You don't have the responsibility. You don't have the need for time with family at that point. It just makes perfect sense to me if you're in your 20s to be I almost said crushing it like that, but working like that.